It's up. There we go. All right. Ashley, do you want to start or you want me to?
Yeah, I can start. So yeah, my name's Ashley. I work here at EnterBridge. I've been here for about 2 years, and I primarily worked on web scraping projects. But I've also done some data analysis and some like demo applications for EnterBridge.
Sweet. And I'm Bo. Been at EnterBridge for about 4 years. I've worked on a variety of projects, web portals, mobile apps, integrations, just doing a variety of things on a variety of different teams. Um, so today, Ashley and I are going to speak on AI and how that's kind of affected the work we do at EnterBridge, how that affects some of our clients, and kind of what are some of the implications of that kind of going forward in the industry. And so the format we're going to kind of do is just kind of, we have a handful of topics. We're just going to kind of run through. If anyone has any questions or wants to jump in the chat and ask them, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll just kind of, go through some of these topics and kind of discuss them a little bit from our perspectives as developers. And so, Ashley, I guess the first direction we can head with this is, how has AI changed how you work as a developer?
Yeah, for me, the biggest change has been speed. With tools like Copilot, there's a lot of like mundane copying or pasting or like repeated patterns that I need to do. And if I don't have AI, like I'll get them done, but it's going to take a long time versus if I'm using a tool like Copilot, after the first or second thing I've done, if it's a pattern, it's going to pick it up and, grab it for the rest of the 10, 20 things I have going on. So for me, it's really been speed. It's made me more efficient, taken away some of those kind of like boring tasks that I have to do. So that's been the biggest change.
Yeah, it's been pretty similar for me. It really does, just the amount of work you can get done in a given day is so much greater when you can just take all the boring, tedious bits of programming and have them just done right away for you with AI. Not that it's like able to solve super complex problems a lot of times, but a lot of the basic, code generation, um, assisting and debugging certain things when you're talking about basic components and stuff, it's super helpful in speeding up development, for sure. So I've definitely seen a similar thing there. So, um, I guess next question for you, Ashley. How do you feel value of developers has changed with AI? Has it decreased, what a developer's worth? Has it increased it? Um, does it make them better? Does it kind of replace them? What are your thoughts kind of in that
Yeah. I
line?
mean, it kind of relates to what we just talked about with speed. I really don't think that it decreases our value. I know that one, I'm going to be biased, of course, but honestly, like AI will make me faster, but right now AI is not at the point that it can replace me. For example, AI is great at generating scripts, but if something's wrong and you have to fix it, like Chat GPT or Copilot gives you bad code, you have to know what's going on to actually fix it and do anything. So until we hit the point where Chat GPT, Copilot, or any tool like that can like create an entire website without any help, we're I still feel like we'll need to be around because when there's problems, you have to know and understand the structure, the language, and all of that to actually fix things.
Yeah, I think right now, like you mentioned, like it doesn't make a huge impact, as it doesn't decrease value at least. It kind of only adds value right now. Once it does get to the point though where it's able to do a lot more, I do think there will be a portion of the dev community that is kind of made obsolete because they're not
Sure. Yeah.
skilled enough at problem solving or have that background to really be able to use that as a tool going forward, enhance what they do. I think some of them will be replaced, but I think the majority of developers, it only enhances value. And I think even with developments in the future, it's going to continue to add value. So
Yeah, agreed. It can
it's,
only get you so
yeah,
far. So once you get to real complex problems, like I
Yeah.
feel like we're so far off on where AI is to get to that point that it'll take a while to get there.
Yeah, and I have no doubt it'll be able to solve complex problems eventually. I'm sure, models will get better, tools will get better, and a lot of these problems will be able to also be solved. But there's a lot of things that it can't do, and it's going to take years, if not decades, to get to the point where it can replace a lot of what developers bring to the table. Yeah, so kind of go along with that, you mentioned Copilot, ChatGPT, some of the others. What are some of your favorite tools or apps that you've seen or that you're excited about potentially coming about right now with AI?
One of my favorite ones that I've used actually isn't like ChatGPT or Copilot. It's a Python library that helps you create AI models. So with AI model creation, right, you have to do a lot of research to understand which model you want to be using, what like type of AI you're going for. And then once you get narrowing on that, you also have to go into each model, understand each of the variables. And when your model isn't performing that great, you got to fine tune them to get something that's useful. And Flammable is this Python library that'll help you do that. You can tell it like, hey, I want a classification model, and it'll try 3 or 4 different types of models and then start fine tuning them and then just give you the final result. So that's one of my favorite ones that I've tried because it really takes away a lot of the research you have to do when things are going wrong. You can kind of focus on, okay, this model's pretty good. Now, if there's things wrong, I need to look at my input data and I need, you can kind of focus on other things to improve your model rather than just like, having to dig deep and understand exactly what variables aren't quite right in your model.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things that I'm personally excited for, so right now, most AI models out there, some of the big ones, they can all run scripts for you and give you desired output data based on those scripts. Usually it's a lot of like Python scripts and stuff that they'll run. What I'm excited for though is when they can get to the point where they can build full applications for you, where you can say, here's the input that I want you to build for me, and they can create a full working application and spit it out for you to use. I think that's like when it gets to that point, I'm gonna be super excited because then you just like exponentially increase the amount of work that someone can get done. Because then you can get that base application and then build off of that from there. We've talked a lot about, it does a lot of code generation, but to do that on like a project level would be awesome. So I'm excited for us to get to that point. But that'll probably be a while down the road to be my guess.
Another thing that you mentioned that I'd be excited to see is any AI that helps with testing. I feel like a lot of times I will get my code done and I'll be like, okay, that was really quick. And now I need to just test like 10 scenarios because I'm pretty sure they won't affect something, but until you test it, you never know. And I'll spend, 5 times as long on testing. So that would be a really cool tool as well that I'd love to see something that would automate that. So
or also like front end user testing, because a lot of the stuff I do right now, it's a lot of front end work. So it's a lot of testing in the web portal. Okay, we added this new feature. What are the implications? Does that break any of the other connected features? But it's a lot of like click user testing, which is tedious and time consuming. Yep. And so if it can get to the point where it can recognize, what it should be doing and be able to identify edge cases and be able to do all that user testing for you, that would be super helpful. Super helpful. Save a ton of time. I do guess there are concerns though too, if you can trust it to do a well enough job. Because if you become solely reliant on it and then you just say, oh, I ran it through, it didn't find anything, and you don't even look at it yourself or test yourself, and there could be glaring things that it omitted, that could be a big issue. Are there any tasks that it's kind of replaced for you? Any tasks that you no longer have to manually do with AI?
So I don't have any like personal daily tasks that I use AI for, but I've created quite a few quite a few automations and like programs that use AI that take away daily tasks from other people. Um, so for a good example is with computer vision. We've been able to create automations where we can like read PDFs or sorry, like images. And without that ability to read images with computer vision, it's a task that has to be done manually and it can be so time consuming. So that's like a really good example of AI being able to take away an entire task. Like anytime someone needs to look at an image and then enter what's on the image into a database with computer vision, we can just automate that, take that entire task away. So,
Yeah,
so yeah.
cool. Very cool. I know we have a lot of clients who still use, lots of sheets and Excel documents and stuff like that. I think something that a lot of people don't realize is, you can utilize AI tools, and a lot of these services, by the way, you can specifically say, don't save any of the information I give you, don't use it in any of your training models, and so the data is safe and secure. But you can, give it several different, let's say, give it like 10 different Excel sheets and say, I want you to join all the data in these ways, and it can do it in an instant and give you the desired data output. So it can take care of a lot of manual work that you would have previously had to do. And so especially for people who aren't dealing with the same thing on a regular basis, but like every day is a unique set of documents that they have to work with, it can be super helpful in saving you a lot of time there. And we've used that quite a bit for certain clients who've asked us to do certain things and kind of pointed out, you can just put it in ChatGPT and it'll tell you,
It'll do it.
what you want. We're happy to do it for you, but there's simpler ways now with AI that you can get rid of a lot of these manual, tedious tasks. And then for me personally, a lot of code generation. If we need to get a bunch of mock data for testing, just
Oh
saying,
yeah.
this is the object structure, give me a giant JSON object with like 100 examples accounting for certain edge cases and stuff. There's a lot of different things that can be done significantly quicker with AI, which is really awesome. How easy or difficult would you say it's been to integrate AI into your software development processes and yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a kind of hard one because it really depends on the tool, right? Like we've obviously talked about the ones that we like, ChatGPT and Copilot, and I'd say those ones are easy to implement and use right off the bat, just by the nature of them being like an addition, not a replacement. So like those ones, super, super easy, super great. Other tools, like I've tried some open source tools that are newer, not as that haven't had much time as the ones we've talked about. And those can be a lot more difficult and frustrating because I think a lot of it is there's like a learning curve you have to go through each model and each tool to know like where is this model good, where is it going to be really bad at, what can I use it for, how can I use it, like expand its use in whatever project I'm using. So, it kind of depends. There are some that are really easy. And then when you're trying to get to really specific problems and use really new or like random tools, it can get a lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kept most of the implementations that I've done at a pretty high level. Haven't really gotten into specific tools outside of Copilot and ChatGPT and that sort of thing. And those are very quick wins. It's very simple
Yeah,
to just start using them and get a lot of value out of them.
you made them so user friendly for sure.
Yeah, and the nice thing is a lot of them have made them very developer friendly. They've built these models to be able to work with code very nicely. And so they're very convenient to use for developers. There's a lot of other tools though that are becoming more popular, and I'm unsure how I feel about them.
Yeah.
Things like your AI video recorder, right? That sits in on your meeting and takes notes and that sort of thing. It's cool, but I never actually look at the results of it,
The results.
looked at the meeting
Yeah.
notes and stuff. So it's like, is it really, adding value for me? Maybe not. Maybe someone like a project manager, it's very valuable, but to
Mhm.
like me as a developer, yeah, probably not. Um, but yeah, there's definitely, for the most part, it's been pretty easy to integrate a lot of these tools into development processes. Um, I'm curious to mess around with some more specific ones, like you mentioned. So very specific use cases and how difficult or easy would that be? But for the most part, a lot of the generic AI tools it's pretty easy to implement.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of go along with it that so obviously AI, these companies that build these tools and these models, their main source of money, I guess, is data, right? They collect data to fine tune these models, make them better. Um, what kind of concerns do you see? What kind of concerns should a company like us have with using AI, especially when it comes to potentially sensitive code, right? What are I guess, how can you avoid or what concerns are there in making sure it's secure?
Yeah, I think the major concern that most people have is that when you feed your questions or your code into your model, right, that could be saved potentially by, whoever's creating the model to enhance the model in the future and can give away some things that you may not necessarily want other people to
Yeah.
know, intellectual property or like data about your company. So honestly, the thing we've done here is to make sure we're using like enterprise versions of things where we can select options and say, hey, like we do not want you to be using our data in your model. This isn't something that, this is not something that should be saved. So there's that option, which I think is the one that most people use. Also, when you're working with if you're working with something really specific and you're creating your own model, that's also an easy win because if you host your own AI programs and applications, right? You know where the data is going, you know what's being used, you know
Well,
where
I
it's
think
being
I lost
saved.
you.
So,
Yeah.
oh, am I back?
Yep. Yep. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, you're good. So yeah, not a problem when you're doing self-hosted stuff, but that could be harder, of course, because that requires a lot more technical knowledge
Yeah.
to actually be able to create one that's useful. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's one thing I like that we've done at EnterBridge is pretty much right from the start. We made it a point to, get an enterprise license for Copilot and give all developers access to that. And, just all sources of AI that we're using, always just ensuring, we are using secure versions where they don't capture data, they don't use it in their models. And so just being able to use all that it's really helpful. Just not having to worry about that side of it because there's so many headaches that you could get into if you aren't careful about what you're using. But we've we've been pretty on top of it from the start, it seems. So it's been nice not having to worry about that.
yeah,
I think we can have a couple more questions. Do you want to get into some of these other ones?
yeah, sure.
Um,
I yeah, I can ask them see if you have
okay.
some more input than I do on these ones. So yeah, where do you
Yeah.
see the role of AI in software development heading into the next like 5, 10 years?
Um, Um, Hard to say. Every time I think they're going to make improvements in certain areas, they go in another direction, which is annoying. But
Yeah.
I think as far as software development goes, and where AI is heading in that realm, obviously there's so many different directions that it's heading at the moment. But in regards to software development, obviously models will get better, and so hopefully when you have bugs or you have features you want to implement and you seek the help of an AI tool, they will be more capable of giving you better suggestions for code. Right now, there's a lot of garbage that's thrown in because they're scraping everything from the internet. And most of the code that you find on the internet is total garbage. And so that's like one of the things, like when developers Google how do I solve a problem or I want to do this thing, you kind of have to like know how to sift through the garbage to find the quality stuff you're looking for.
Uh-huh.
And AI is not the best at that right now. And so I think the quality overall is going to get a lot better as it learns to get better at sifting through the garbage. And then I think code generation is going to get really good. I think we'll see, full-on website builders that you just type in a prompt or you click in these spots and AI is able to say, okay, and it just updates it like you want it to. So think of like your web flows and your Squarespace sites.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the next 10 years, all of them will be like fully, the user enters what they want or clicks or circles like a part of the screen and it'll update exactly how they want it. And so I think that's going to be like the next big thing. I mean, it's kind of already started, but I think
Uh-huh.
it's going to get to be really good to where it full on replaces website builders. So that'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just in general, increased quality is going to be the biggest thing. And hopefully it can get to the point where they're building full apps and giving you full build files that you can just run on your computer and to do whatever it is you're trying to do. Because right now, like I said, it's mainly just like Python scripts and basic scripts that a lot of these services can do.
Yeah.
But when they get to the point where they can handle a variety of things, like I want to build a Swift app for iOS, give me the full build and it can do that. Or, I want to build a website in this language with this framework. When it can get to a point where you can like get specific like that with it and it can give you the builds that you're looking for, that'll be sweet. And I think that's possible in the next 10 years. Who knows if
Yeah.
that'll happen, but
Cool.
it's possible.
I like what you said about quality too, because I definitely see that sometimes I'll type something and some prompt in and I'll get the code back and be like, yeah, this technically works, but like this is not efficient. This looks bad. This isn't like,
Yeah.
this isn't something that I really want to use, even though it
Yeah.
works. So it would be great to see, better code come out of these chatbots. And also,
Yeah.
another thing that'd be great is to be able to like feed your code in and be like, this isn't efficient. I know it is. I just don't have the time right now to fix it. Can you do this and make it more efficient based on this package? Which honestly I haven't tried yet, but that would be a great, that'd be a great addition.
Another thing that I've noticed, and maybe you've seen this too, when it comes to debugging issues, a lot of times you'll have a section of code that potentially has multiple issues, and you'll tell, help me solve this problem, and it solves it. And it's like, okay, now solve this problem, and it solves it, but reverts everything that solved the first problem. And so it struggles a lot of times to keep the full context of the entire conversation. It'll only go back a handful of, of messages to be able to solve coding problems that are more complex. And this kind of goes to, right now it's really not a threat to developers because it's not that smart. I mean, it is to some degree, but
in some ways,
but in other ways, like when it comes to complex problems, it's incapable of solving most of them, which is where a developer becomes useful. But I think when it's able to work in a much larger context, that'll also be pretty great. Because right now that's one thing it struggles with, right? Solving problem A and then solving problem B without reverting things from A, and so that's another thing that I've noticed that AI currently struggles with. So that'll be interesting to see. I think just like one kind of last thing that we can chat a little bit about, whether or not AI enhances or hinders creativity in software development. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or I have some thoughts of my own, but
so I'd say for like, it's hard for me to speak for everybody or anything like that, but for me personally, I feel like it actually enhances creativity because it's a new tool, right? So like I have to figure out how to use the new tool. I have to figure out its input and output. And with that, it'll sometimes generate code that you've never thought of before, and you'll think of a problem in a new way. So in some ways, it's almost like another person that you're talking to about code. So you can kind of get more creative, get more ideas, just by the
Yeah,
nature of, you have another option when you're coding to help you
yeah,
review.
yeah. I think right now, because it's so new, I think for the most part, it really does just enhance, creativity. But I fear that what could happen over time is as everyone starts using AI to help generate code and generate all these different things, pretty much, every site's architecture is going to start to look the same.
Oh yeah.
Everything is going to start to look similar because everyone's starting to pull from AI to get it to generate like a lot of these base templates and various things. And so I think there's concerns about, in the future what it could do. But I think right now, like you're saying, it only enhances the creativity that you can, new ideas, new things you haven't thought of. I think it really does enhance creativity at the moment, but I do think there's a concern that, if it starts feeding everybody the exact same types of, you know, responses for certain types of questions, everyone's going to, instead of everyone going down their own creative path like they have in the past and, kind of just finding little answers online, everyone's going to start using large chunks of AI generated code, and a lot of things are going to look the same, and creativity is going to go down in that regard. But it'll be interesting to see. But I've noticed this with like AI generated images and designs. Like you can tell when an image was from ChatGPT or Gemini or wherever, like Dolly,
Yep.
because they all come out pretty much the same style and pretty much the same, stereotypical results. And so that could happen with code generation as well. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. If you're using it as a
yeah,
starting point, things are going to start looking real similar versus if you're
yeah,
using it as you're going.
yeah. And I think most people do use that as a starting point because like one of
Yeah,
the big draws to it is you can get a lot of, tedious, base code. You can auto generate a lot of those things with AI really quickly, and then you can do the fine details yourself. And so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah. Um, any other thoughts on AI and how it's, affected your work or how it's affected us at EnterBridge or any of your clients that you have?
um, I mean, in general, I'm just excited about where it's going and how it's going to change things as it gets more and more, um, more and more developed as we get more and more options. I'm just excited to see where things go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it should be exciting. I'm curious to see, I don't feel like we've had a ton of customers inquire about AI a lot, when we're doing stuff for them. I'm curious to see at what point will we get to that where there's kind of like a shift and everyone's like, okay, another requirement I have is, all my investors are saying I need to incorporate AI into this. So how are we going to do that? So I'm curious when we get to
Yeah.
that point. I think it's fast approaching, but I don't think we've quite hit that point yet. Um, but I'm curious to see when that'll happen, because then there'll be a whole nother shift in how we do business and how we do development work, and it'll be interesting for sure. But since we're already working with AI, I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but it'll be
Yep.
interesting.
I think we
Yeah.
use it more than we admit or not admit, more than we realize sometimes. Things like
Yep.
computer vision, where like it is AI, but I don't really
Yep.
think of it as AI because it's not the new chat, it's not the new cool models that everyone's using.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, anyone watching this, we appreciate you tuning in. Again, my name's Bo, and this is Ashley. We're both software developers here at EnterBridge. If you have any questions whatsoever about AI or about software development or any custom software projects that you might be doing, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn or to our EnterBridge company page here on LinkedIn. And we will happily get back to you and answer whatever questions you might have. Anything else, Ashley?
nope, nothing
All
from me.
right, sweet. Well, I will see you later. Have a good one.